So Brian, what is Ethan Hunt's leadership superpower?
Clearly, it is jumping motorcycles off of very tall things. Okay, maybe not. Ethan Hunt's leadership superpower in this movie is unquestionably trust. And by trust, I don't mean like blind trust, faith that things are going to go right, or just like assuming that everybody has good intentions, because he clearly doesn't. He does not live in a world where everybody has good intentions. He does not live in a world where everybody is trying to help him out. He does not live in a world where the people that he interacts with that he needs to be on his team are even necessarily reliable at the start of the movie, right? The first 35 minutes of his interactions with Grace involve her repeatedly picking his pocket and abandoning him in various terrible situations and handcuffing him to a car in the path of an oncoming train. He doesn't start with trust in a lot of these relationships. But the thing that we see in his team and the thing that we see him deploying very skillfully is the tactics and techniques of how to build trust with people where you don't have it to start with, and how to act on the appropriate amount of trust with basically everyone. So let's talk about some examples. Right at the beginning of the movie, Ethan has a relationship with Kittredge, who is this effectively the director of the IMF, the person that keeps giving him the jobs. He trusts Kittredge to give him missions, and he trusts Kittredge maybe to get him some resources or something, but he doesn't really trust him at all in any other way. And so the first interaction they have, Ethan very strictly controls the parameters of this interaction, right? He sneaks into the room and he knocks everybody else out while wearing a gas mask. And then he has this very direct conversation with this guy who he knows is in the process of, calling the security to try to betray him. And then he knocks him out and puts a mask on and sneaks out pretending to be him. It's ridiculous, but he's like, okay, this is exactly how far I can trust this. Then he's got this relationship with Grace through the entire first half of the movie, where he recognizes right away that she has a physical object that he wants and skill sets that he really respects. Her pickpocketing and her confidence and her ability to get in and out of situations. And so he they go through this comedy of errors of, chase scenes in Rome, all sorts of ridiculous things that happen to them. But throughout the movie, he keeps giving her opportunities to trust him. Like, I'm going to try to take care of you. No, I'm going to get us out of this situation. You just have to trust me. He keeps giving her opportunities to take the next step of coming farther into his orbit or to walk away. Then he progressively gives her opportunities to contribute. I'm going to trust that you're going to do this thing, even though you haven't been entirely reliable. I feel like you could be an ally. And so he's trying to walk her into being a core member of the team. Even later in the movie, right, we see him, he's got the desperate fight in the alley with the two bad guys, including the ninja woman Paris. And right at the end of the fight, he knocks her down. He's got her helpless. He's holding the iron bar. He makes eye contact with her and very distinctly saves her life. There's no reason in that moment for him to do that, right? He doesn't have any way to forecast that she'll do something specifically useful for him in the future. That's just his reflexes. The way you act is that you take care of yourself, but given an opportunity, you show somebody just a little bit of forbearance. But when he's on top of the train and the FBI guys show up to arrest him, he surrenders, but then he tries to talk them into helping him out, and then he hands the gun back to the FBI agent and is like, I need you to help me save all the people on this train. I trust that you're aligned with me, at least on that element, right? And so he does this over and over and over again. And the punchline, what we see is the people that are on his team are acting with a great deal of independence. They're acting with a great deal of their own leeway in how they're going to do things. And they are choosing what to tell him and choosing not what to tell him. And they're choosing what they're going to do while he's doing other things. But he sort of just has this baseline understanding that they're all trying to accomplish the mission, that they're all aligned with the fundamental goals. And nobody else in the movie has that. None of the other characters, none of the villains, none of the underworld bad guys, none of the government characters, none of them have anybody that they can unquestionably trust to act independently in service of their same goal. And so it's a real superpower for him, is to find people and bring them into his orbit and act, as we always say, using his other leadership superpower of self-sacrifice, putting himself in harm's way to protect people so that they will then be available to him, be available to help, make the changes happen in the world that he sees.
Yeah, I like how you said that there. He does use the leadership tool of self-sacrifice, and oftentimes we talk about how that leadership tool of self-sacrifice comes alongside of the superpower of compassion. Right. And in that moment, with specifically the example with Paris in the alleyway, that is definitely a moment of compassion where he has no obligation to let her live in that situation, but he offers her mercy and it is repaid to him later on. And I love how you kind of showed through and through, like in each interaction, Ethan is skillfully building trust, is showcasing that he understands the boundary of current trust that he has with each of these individuals and organizations. And he's also teaching other people about trust. He's not explicitly doing it, but he's implicitly teaching them how to build trust with each other. And I love one example that you didn't share was the two FBI agents or whatever at the end when they're in the train, and the younger black guy's like, "Oh, I've just been thinking about this. What if Hunt's actually right? Like, what if everything that he's doing is really the magnanimous thing?" And the older white dude's like, "Yeah, I don't know about that. Like, we just got to turn this into the man, right?" And then in the end, of course, in the example you gave, when he handed the gun back to Briggs, the older agent, Briggs is like, "Oh crap, I think he was right. Like, I think Hunt actually is trustworthy," and it builds a two-way relationship.